So once again, we're going to have Ruby Sapphire here this round.
I showed him the card, everybody at home, if you've been following along.
Ruby Sapphire against an Emerald Steel deck. Emerald Steel is actually a deck, I haven't seen one yet today, but it's pretty well represented here for a deck that's not in the top 3, and we know there's some very good players that are piloting this deck right now into the top cut.
Yeah, speaking of good players piloting decks, I don't know if you know this, Chris Andersen is a heck of a player when it comes to this game. Affectionately referred to as Cran, or Cranderson, as we like to do. I've known him for, I don't know, 15 years. One heck of a TCG player. Really good head on his shoulders. He's been playing a lot of Lorcana over the last about a year, making some content. If you follow him on social media, he's been posting a lot of his lists, really on the cutting edge of a lot of them. He was really big on the limit line before anybody else was. He was one of the first people I saw really talking about that deck. One heck of a player. So Kristy's got a lot to work on here this round. I'm sure she's a great player of her own, but Chris is not going to make it easy on her, I'll tell you that. Especially since he is a player that has played with the Lemon Lime deck quite a bit. So he's going to know kind of a lot of what Kristy could do here, even though this is Green Steel. He's played a lot of these versions of these decks, is what I'm trying to say. So it looks like we're going to have a turn 1 ice block from Chris back over after no play from Kristy.
Yeah, not the ideal turn of play. It is uninkable, so it's often when you're playing in favor of a popsicle for that reason, but love to get a popsicle. But here, kind of an interesting opening hand here. I think we had 3 morphs in the opening hand. Morph, of course, is a card with a variety of Floodborns that can make use of it in these colors. Beast Tragic Hero is a great example. We do see it in our hand.
Doch, wir kriegen noch mehr Runde 7. Okay, fine.
Beast that allows you to get him out on
Sehen wir da Emerald Steel gegen Ruby Sapphire?
Serving as that target, and we may see that earlier.
Okay, cool.
Have you been looking at any of the previews for set 6?
A few.
Okay. I've noticed a lot of them shift.
A lot of shifters.
I feel like we're going to start seeing a lot more morph in the future.
Yeah, it's a fun little card.
I don't know if I agree with your definition of fun, but it's fun for me when I get to
ja,
play it,
Emerald
when my
Steel mit
opponent
Clarabelle,
does it,
ganzen
then
Tag.
it's not okay.
Habe ich davon
That's not as
geschwärmt.
fun.
So
Endlich kriegen wir es zu
it's
sehen.
an interesting play. So knowing that what this deck wants to do is apply early hand pressure, usually. Most of these Emerald Steel decks are running some sort of discard. And one of the ways that Kristy wins this game is forcing Chris to discard early. Because
Das finde ich eigentlich ein cooles Deck. Ist ein bisschen so das Gegenstück zu Ruby Amethyst. In dem Sinn, dass Ruby Amethyst
die cards in his hand
die
in order
guten
to fill his inkwell. And with a little bit
Removal
of
hat
discard pressure,
für
you can really
Charaktere,
interrupt that.
ungeachtet dessen, wie groß sie sind.
A Harem Flaversham in the mid game,
Aber Emerald Steel hat die guten
so
gegen
rather
kleinere
than playing,
Charaktere.
I didn't see his hand. I didn't see if there was a ramp card available. But rather than
Da
play
kommt
a
direkt
one-up ahead or a
Beast.
Tipo, is playing a Chicha, a card that will allow him to draw extra cards.
Hä, das
as he
verwandt ihn
gets
doch
his
gar
ramp
nicht.
going.
Oder hatte
But
der schon
Kristy's
einen
saying,
Schaden?
not gonna
Ach,
allow
das
you to
ist
do that.
Chicha. Ich
Shifting
dachte, das
feature
ist
on
Tipo.
turn 3, singing Strength of Raging Fire,
Dann ist natürlich doch verwandt.
And Chris here
Boah,
with
mit
a really
Eisblock.
efficient
Ja,
answer,
krass.
brawling that Beast Tragic Hero, effectively a 2-for-1,
Sad.
and resetting the board.
Aber es kann
so
noch Turn
gosh,
5
just back
Clarabelle
and forth
kommen,
here
ne?
already.
Ne, es gibt keine 7 auf Clarabelle auf der Hand.
Absolutely. Let's see if Kristy has a really good
Dann
follow-up
kommt
here.
Clarabelle mit Sicker.
And, yeah, I absolutely love this.
Verband
Being able
den
to take care of
Eisblock.
items with some of your main deck playable cards, really, really good. This is the one-drop Clarabelle, but when it comes to play, you can spend an extra 2 ink, and it takes care of an item here. Really good in this matchup for sure. But that ice block, I think Chris is okay if he loses that one, but he gets to keep his quill.
Yeah, absolutely true.
Ja,
But again,
Strength
this is
of
a
Raging
card
Fire
that's
muss, glaub ich,
going to
in die
make
Tinte.
the extra use of the cards in Chris's hand. And so Chris needs to find some sort of draw answer
Dann macht
here
man sich
because
wahrscheinlich
if
ein
Kristy draws
Lore.
into an Ursula or
legt noch
even a
den
sudden
Morph.
chill or something that starts putting hand pressure
Ja,
on,
oder man macht
he could
Bow.
burn out kind of early.
Will ja
That
hoffen.
Fishbone Quill will give
will
him
ja
some
so
insurance and
hofft,
against drawing into a hand full of
dass
uninkables like we saw in the last game.
Clarabelle 7
And
Drop
Grandma
zieht.
Tala here is a fine card. It doesn't give you a card advantage, allowing
Ja,
you
genau.
only to
Grandma
gain
Tala
one
ist
card
jetzt
when she's
fine.
played, but it replaces itself. And those are the kinds of cards that Chris wants to be playing here in the mid game.
A little bit of card quality, too. You get to look at 2 of them and pick the one that you want out of it. So, you know, you can find an inkable, find a card that's a good answer here as well. But, yeah, Kristy getting pretty low on cards here, and a lot of these don't have a ton of impact. You know, I see another Morph here. I think I saw a one-drop Robin Hood as well, when she really, really needs some of her bigger, more impactful cards here. I think Along Came Zeus was the last card in her hand. Yeah, I was going to say, it looks like that's what it is. But a lot of good top decks to be able to shift on. You know, bigger Clarabelle would be really good for her here. But you see Chris maybe kind of has that in mind here as well, getting some of these cards out of his hand as soon as possible. Just so if he's probably going to have more cards in his hand when the big Clarabelle comes down for Kristy, but he can mitigate that as much as possible.
Yeah, so interesting play before. He did send Be Prepared into the Inkwell. One reason I think is Scar serves as a bit of an insurance policy to remove multiple characters with that. But two, knowing that there is item removal in this deck and his Fishbone Quill is susceptible to getting removed, if Kristy managed to play another one and remove that item, Kristy would have been sitting with like 3 or 4 uninkables in his hand, forcing him to ink cards that he'd rather be playing.
Yeah, go ahead and plays a Madam here as well. Takes out that pesky little morph out of the way, just because, like you said, there's so many cards you can shift on this. You're not 100% sure what your opponent's list is. You want to make sure that you could deny them the most possible plays here. Because, look, they already have the small Clarabelle. You could shift onto that no matter what. But what if there's another big character that you don't know about? So, looks like we got a whiff with the Ursula here.
No, so we saw this last round, right? So Kristy, now I think she drew into this, but playing it on turn 6, let's say she had it, is exactly what you want to do to play around that Be Prepared. Chris getting rid of it early, knowing that that's a possibility. Now we whiff sitting in a Scar instead, and you know, saving him, discarding that Be Prepared. Yeah,
we've seen Scar get played a little bit here again, you know, kind of falling out of favor, and I'm kind of liking it. It's dodging these cards, you know, it's dodging Ursula, it's dodging Bare Necessities and a few of the other things that have in the past been able to pick off something like, you know, Be Prepared as well. So this is another extra copy of it that can get around. Plus, you could draw it off the Daisy Duck that we saw in the round before, in the games before. So lots of cool stuff to like for Scar here.
Yeah, and another reason is Pete. Pete is a card.
That's another great example, yeah.
Yeah, so you see a lot of these decks shifting away from the Be Prepared type removal into character-based removal, like the Sisu's or in this case, Scar.
And Chris goes ahead and look. Sometimes you have to play your Maui or you have to play your Scar when there's no target for it to challenge into, and you can't, you know, quest with it right away. It has Rush, but you might as well spin the ink while you've got it.
Yeah, that definitely presents a threat on the board.
Klar, wenn du nichts anderes
machst,
Scar Go besser als Go.
Much without the Scar being, I mean, and even realistically here, a lot of stronger characters than Chris is on the board. We will play Along Came Zeus to get rid of that Scar.
Yeah, nice play for Kristy here, finding a really good target for Along Came Zeus.
Dann Go oder was?
Denying Chris any value off that card and getting to kind of trade 4 ink for 7 here.
Yeah, so this is gosh, a fun game here. Another thing, you know, to pay attention to, you know, there's another reason to play that Scar and to keep your hand kind of low. You don't want it empty necessarily, but you want it kind of low. And that's because one of Kristy's ways back in this game is drawing into more cards, drawing into discard cards. But if she can, using a Clarabelle, if she can shift that Clarabelle and draw up to Chris's hand total if he's sitting on a significant number of cards, that's the way she gets back in this game. So Chris very cognizant of that line that's available and is going to keep his hand not super low, but low-ish.
Yeah, no, it's another really great catch. In these spots, I think a really good way when you feel ahead in the game is like, what does it look like when I lose from here? How do I lose from here? What happens when the game starts to get out of hand for me? And I think that's one of the ones. As a Clarabelle comes down and then your opponent starts drawing extra cards every turn, it becomes a problem. And it looks like, speaking of problems, speaking of problems, that's a big old dragon.
There she is. Maleficent Monstrous Dragon, a card from set 1.
Ja, irgendwie es sah echt nicht schlecht aus, bis das Beast gebaut wurde. Seitdem kam nur noch das. Das ist unfortunate gezogen, aber so kann es einem natürlich passieren mit dem Emerald Steel Deck. Gerade so Shift-Lines sind generell anfällig dafür, dass man im Early Game nicht die kleinen Drops hat, die Hand dann globig ist, oder alternativ, dass man im Late Game die kleinen Guys nachzieht.
And I will say, you know, one of the things for Kristy is there's some decent removal in steel, but it's damage-based removal. These are some stronger characters on the board now with Maleficent. I mean, you can take care of it with Along Came Zeus, but there's no board wipe. And so, yeah, it's going to be a challenge to deal with all of this.
Aber ich weiß es nicht.
All right, well, this is a decent start here. We've got a shifted Robin Hood that's going to go and take care of one of the Grandma's Hollows. It's going to present quite a threat here because only gain some lore here, but that's a big character for Chris to deal with and see if he finds a way to do this without possibly maybe drawing her an extra card. Maybe finds a little bit of a removal spell himself.
Ja, vielleicht findet er eine Medusa.
View
of that. But it does look like it is going to be a trade.
Yep. Chris will draw a card out of that. She's happy to do that at this point, I think. Oh, and a Great Stone Dragon. I am the Great Stone Dragon. This is a fun card we saw it appear a little bit. It's worked into some decks, not all of them. But when it is played in the end game, it's usually played to great effect. This is a card that's not generally used to ramp because in order to put ink in your inkwell, you need to have character cards in your discard pile. But in the end game here, when you've been playing for a while, there's plenty of them available. And so Chris will be able to get an extra ink every turn off of that Great Stone Dragon for quite a few turns.
Yeah, another reason we've seen his deck built the way it has, right? You know, we've seen Scar in his deck, a lot of other stuff that we necessarily, you don't always see sometimes in these red in these red-blue decks, these Ruby Sapphire decks. And Great Stone Dragon can really take advantage of the fact that he's playing a little more of a heavy character version of the deck.
Yeah, we do see the Clarabelle Light on her hooves come down here. A card that Kristy would have loved to draw some cards off of, but unfortunately, Chris, I think with nothing in hand, allowing Kristy to draw. And I do not think that Clarabelle is going to stay around to draw her cards next turn.
Kristy doch jetzt
if we see him use the Flabbersham.
Yeah, we'll say lots of extra cards here. Andersen's going to come in, grab an extra card, grab a second extra card. Going to go into the Popsicle. That's going to draw another one. Now we've got a Visions to look at the top 5. So Chris gets to go shopping now and pick out the best deal for himself here.
For sure.
Takes a look at the top 5.
Und dann wird noch die Clarabelle abarbeiten mit seinem Maleficent.
Probably a pretty good, impactful one. Yeah, he wants to deal with it. Looks like he's going to go ahead and trade with the Clarabelle. So at least Kristy gets some value off of it. Goes ahead, uses the Great Stone Dragon to put another card into his Inkwell. And passes back with 2 cards in hand. Yeah, which is the card advantage here, definitely with Chris. Kristy does draw another big Robin Hood.
Another big Robin Hood. Yep. Not a terrible card to draw into, but you need to start rebuilding your board here.
Yeah, this is the situation you usually don't want to be in with Ruby Sapphire, is getting into kind of a top deck war, because they have so many cards in their deck that just cost 8 and cost 7 and cost 9, and you still have 1-drops.
That's like true. Yeah. I mean, that's why this deck, they say, has inevitability, because their cards in the endgame are just better.
Ja.
When you're playing the better cards every turn, you're going to.
Man hat Inevitability zumindest gegen die meisten Decks.
Card draw on the board right now. Flabbersham going to draw.
Kristy mit Emerald Seal. Kann er da kaum was machen, dass Lucky Dime sie letzten Endes einmacht. Also egal wie defensively man versuchen würde mit Emerald Seal zu spielen gegen so ein Sapphire Deck, man würde am Ende verlieren gegen den Lucky Dime. Das einzige Deck, mit dem man Ruby Sapphire vernünftig auskontrollieren kann, meiner Meinung nach, ist so Runde. Weil darin hat man Q6 drauf. Erstmal hat man darin super Ramp und Kartenvorteil und kann grinden ohne Ende. Was man leider nicht kann, ist gut den Hiram wegmachen. Aber man kann ihn so relativ gut wegmachen eigentlich doch, ne? Naja, man kann ihn schon relativ schlecht wegmachen. Man kann ihn wegmachen, aber es ist nicht so toll. Aber trotzdem kann man halt die Threats des UR-Decks neutralisieren. Und insbesondere kann man halt den Cusco, den Lucky Dime im Zweifelsfall in die Tinte legen. Und das ist etwas, was man mit anderen Colors nicht kann. Und weswegen man dann tatsächlich den Lucky Dime so für immer loswerden kann. Normalerweise würde er ja nur vom Tamator wieder ausgegraben. Habe ich schon mal erzählt, vor 10 Stunden. Wenn nicht vor noch längerer Zeit.
Here's another big drop. Sisu is going to take care of both of the Ursulas.
Oh dear.
Ja, Ende. Was geht in Game 2? Kristy, lass mal sehen.
A Fishbone Quill getting out of there. A couple more quests going to bring Chris up to 14, I believe. He's going to pass back over. Kristy's going to draw a card, and that's going to be enough for her for Game 1.
Golly.
Chris's deck looked great here in this game. Kristy's could have definitely been a better draw for her in this game.
Ja.
Yeah, it could have been a better draw.
Kristy's war aber nicht so spannend. Das hatte Beast.
One of the key plays here was that brawl on Beast Tragic Hero. I mean, that's a card that could have gotten Kristy's hand going.
Die Frage ist im Nachhinein, ich glaube, es wäre möglich gewesen, anstatt Beast zu machen in Turn 3, vorher Clarabelle mit Sticker zu machen und den Eisblock zu verbannen. Ich glaube, das wäre auch eine Option gewesen in Turn 3. Es war natürlich cool, so mit dem dann noch Strength of a Raging Fire direkt gesungen, Teacher zu verbannen. Aber da dann man sofort den Brawl gefressen hat und dann nichts mehr hatte. Ich denke mal, dass dieses Emerald Sea Deck ja schon eigentlich einiges an Kartenvorteil haben wird. Clarabelle auf jeden Fall, Beast, bestimmt auch Diablo. Gerade dieser Bild, glaube ich, da wird Diablo dick drin sein.
The Ruby Sapphire player from ramping early using cards like Fishbone Quill or Tipo. Sure. And so, yeah, applying the hand pressure and putting that Ruby Sapphire player behind early, Ruby Sapphire player behind in their hand early is really key. And,
ja, aber man wird diesen Ruby Sapphire Player nicht wirklich in der Hand behind forcen können mit diesem Bild mit Clarabelle. Sie wird nämlich nicht so viel Discard-Karten in dem Deck haben. Mehr Draw.
Into day 2 and in the best position for day 2. Let's see how that second game is going to play out if we head back down to the feature match area.
Yeah, and I do think that this game, could go either way. I do not know Kristy's build. There are multiple ways to build this Emerald Steel deck. There are some that lean a bit more into the discard with cards like Prince John allowing you to refill your hand, and then there are others that lean different directions. And so, depending on what build she's on, she might not be, she might not have some of those discard options available, and maybe running a more aggressive build. So we'll see if she manages to do that here. And Chris, of course, has a lot more information here on the mulligan as well, able to alter his hand into the best possible opening for this pairing.
Absolutely. I think I see 2 1-drop Clarabelles for Kristy as well, a card that can do a lot in this matchup. We've seen, I believe there's going to be, 4
Achso, ich dachte, sie hätte den grünen Robin Hood auf der Hand, aber ne.
As well, so lots of really good targets for her early in the game that can get some value for Chris later. Even if you just pick off a popsicle or something half the time, it's not horrible to do so, because it can disrupt the draw from Chris where, like, he has a Haversam or whatever for turn 4, and then if he doesn't have an item, then that card's nowhere near as good as it should be.
Yeah, and this
Die Frage ist, was will man auf der Starthand haben?
I think for what she wants to be doing. You have the Robin Hood on turn 1, the Shift on turn 3. In the middle, you can play the Ursula if you want to apply some hand pressure. And since you're on the play, you can disrupt a 1-jump ahead if that's the way that Chris is going. You also have... there's something else I saw that I was really excited about, and I'm blanking on it. I lost sight of the hand.
It's been a long day.
Yeah, no, but not a terrible opening there, shifting that Robin Hood
diese Hand von Kristy ist diesmal nicht schlecht, aber sie hat immer noch keine Card-Drawing-Engine so am Start.
Brawl, knowing that a Robin Hood or a Beast Tragic Hero is possible on turn 3, wants to shut that down as early as possible. Oh, that was the other thing, the Clarabelle. If Chris is counting on a Fishbone Quill to ramp on turn 3, Kristy can actually save that Clarabelle instead of dropping it on turn 1, save it until that Fishbone Quill comes down and interrupt that ramp.
Well, she is not loath for 1-drops in this game. I think she had 3 1-drop Robin Hoods in her opening hand here. Kept one of them, and then drew 2 more, I believe, off of the reshaping of her hand. And we got a pretty good start here for Chris Andersen. That early ramp that doesn't involve items is going to be in a pretty good spot for him. That's a T-Po on turn 2. Getting the 3rd ink there. That is an Ice Block, though. That is at least a target for Clarabelle on turn 3.
Ach so, ne, Chris fängt auch noch dieses Game jetzt an. Kristy hatte vorhin angefangen. Sie hat echt Turn 3 einfach den Draw gefressen auf ihr Beast.
I love players that chat a lot when they play, too. I'm on the chatty side. Pretty obvious.
You don't say.
Yeah, pretty obvious. I'm on the chatty side.
Ja, ich finde auch nice, gegen die labern, wenn sie spielen, aber meistens gereicht das zu deren Nachteil. Wenn man labert, dann spielt man doch so ein bisschen mehr Casual. Und was ich mir habe sagen lassen, ist, dass wenn man viel labert, dass dann noch eher der bessere Spieler brennt. Das heißt, es funktioniert in gewissem Maß, seine Gegner zu trashen. Nämlich dann, wenn man eh besser ist als die. Aber wenn der Gegner besser ist als man selbst, dann trasht auch man sich selbst. Das habe ich schon fett gemacht. Aber dann habe ich es verstanden. Weil Dirk B. es mir erklärt hat. Nachdem mich fertig gemacht hat.
Awesome, the whole community is here.
War gut zu wissen.
I'm getting all warm and bubbly inside.
Von daher, wenn ihr gerne quatscht, aber ihr seid nicht so gut,
konzentriert euch vielleicht lieber stattdessen. This is kind of the play that I was talking about, but Chris was able to do this ahead
Leute kennenzulernen und so weiter, sind halt so Lorcana-Challenges nicht unbedingt das beste Event. In dem Sinne, dass die the most competitive sind. Das kann man gut machen in so einem Store. Da trifft man dann auch Locals, die nächste Woche nochmal da sind. Ne? Es ist ja jetzt auch nicht so geil, auf so einem Event irgendwo Leute kennenzulernen, dann hey Chris, nice to meet you.
It's a little bit of an insurance policy there.
Yo, Chris.
So we do have the Robin Hood shift
available. Ich add dich auf Instagram, I guess.
We could shift and then sing, let the storm rage on, removing the T-Po.
Ich habe damals Leute kennengelernt, in Anführungszeichen noch und Löcher. Jetzt habe ich 400 Leute in meiner Facebook-Friendlist. Sind das meine Friends? No, es sind random Leute, von denen ich teilweise nicht mal mehr weiß, wer die überhaupt sind.
Hiram, you can get rid of the T-Po, but like neither one of those is like
die meisten
getting you super far ahead. Like the strength of a Raging Fire is like fine, but not great here. Like questing for 2 might just be better. But then you're exposing yourself to a Maui.
Jedenfalls, der Punkt dieses Geschwafels sollte sein, auf so einem Niveau lieber konzentriert spielen.
Yeah, so let's see. So it doesn't... Yeah, there we go. We are shifting the Robin Hood. And we are going to sing that Strength of Raging Fire, remove that T-Po. Now, this does get an uninkable out of Kristy's hands, allowed her to draw into a card, giving her more options, see more of her deck.
Ja, nicht, dass man T-Po so dringend wegmachen musste, aber...
Getting that off the board. And Chris here, though,
Alter,
having gotten that Flavish online mid-game, really important.
Yeah, I think I did just spy a Maui in Chris's
aber jetzt ist Kristys Hand schon wieder nicht so super stark.
I believe that's what he's going to go for here this turn, and it looks like, yep, it's going to be a Maui. Take care of Robin Hood. A card is going to go into Kristy's hand here for this, but one of her best threats has been dealt with, and the card is still on the board and sitting around in that Maui.
No, it's a great play. That is really the perfect answer there. Other than a brawl, the Maui, though, sticks around. And so that, I mean, not only does it get a body off the board, but that's a 5.
Ja, jetzt, wo ich mir dieses Gameplay so angucke, ich glaube, mir gefällt die Emerald Steel Variante mit Discard doch besser als die mit Clarabelle.
Just a lot of her options removed here with that Robin off the board.
Der Discard ist ja schon schön disruptive und so, und dann haben wir noch Prince John.
Let's get that straight. I mean, what else is she supposed to do in these spots? Yeah. Ursula, take a look.
Wenn man stattdessen halt, vor allem man wird ja trotzdem Ursula spielen und so, super die Anti-Kombo mit Clarabelle.
She's in a really rough spot here. You start luring up with anything, these Mauis are going to really punish, and then that popsicle represents so many extra cards for Chris as well. So that's about one of the worst.
Irgendwie schade eigentlich, den Clarabelle-Bild muss man noch finden.
I mean,
am Ende war bisher noch der beste Bild mit Clarabelle einfach dieses Sapphire Emerald von dem Guy vorhin. Ich stelle mir allerdings auch vor, dass es relativ gut sein könnte, so Ember, haben wir ja vorhin eigentlich auch gesehen, ne? Ember, Emerald und mit Clarabelle. Aber das war ja so ein Hyper-Argo-Bild. In Ember gibt es surprising viel Ramp. Ne? Theoretisch hätte man so Gaston, Lantern,
So there are some outs available here. So Chris is going to probably exert his Flavisham there. It's a card that Kristy would like to get off the board.
Damit halt
if Kristy draws into
die Hand relativ leer machen und dann Clarabelle ins Spiel bringen.
Or another Floodborn character. She can
potenziell nicht das Schlechteste.
Zeus, dealing 5 damage to the Flavisham, finishing it off with the Ursula. So there are options here to kind of get control
vielleicht irgendwie so ein Bild mit Faser
ish.
Und dann 7 Drop Wreck-It Ralph und so auch.
Popsicle to play for Chris here, card drawn, then immediately that's going to get cashed in, have her some. Goes ahead and quests for one lore, but
wahrscheinlich auch nicht so toll, aber ich überlege immer gerne mal so alles durch, was nicht schon jeder spielt.
Which is used to take care of that morph, to take away some of those play lines that you were talking about.
Weil ich glaube, da in den Fringes, es ist leider echt so sad, dass dieses Pixelborn inzwischen nicht mehr ist. Ich habe so viele Random Decks noch, die ich gerne mal testen würde, kommt man noch nie zu, weil die Decks halt auch so Schrott sind. Most likely, es lohnt sich kaum, die zu bauen.
Kristy would love it if he didn't.
Aber naja, muss ich halt doch mal fleißiger sein.
Just a challenge here, so that's okay. Passing it back. Didn't draw into another low-cost item. Let's see what Kristy drew. We did. Oh, unfortunately, Beast Tragic Hero. If the morph was in play.
So unfortunate for Kristy in this match.
Yeah, that line would have been available. So that drawing that brawl there crucial.
Ja, aber wenn der Morph jetzt nicht im Spiel ist, dann kann man auch trotzdem Beast einfach so legen. Achso, man könnte dann sofort We Don't Talk About Bruno singen. Aber auf was denn? Auf den Maui? Das wäre jetzt auch nicht so gut.
Along came Zeus, along with the Ursula. You talked about this is a way to get rid of the Haversam.
Gibt natürlich dem Maui jetzt noch die Ursula umsonst, aber das ist auch nicht so super schlimm.
We'll clean up that Ursula in short order here. But getting that Flavisham off the board is crucial in this situation. Chris drawing 3 cards per turn is not palatable. But speaking of card drawing,
eine gezogen.
Paired with the 1 jump ahead, that'll give Chris an extra card off the Chicha. So found another way to draw cards and advances Inkwell at the same time.
Yeah, it's about everything this deck wants to do every turn. If I can draw an extra card and get extra ink, sign me up. Back over to Kristy.
Ich finde Chicha auch cool. Aber die Uninkability ist natürlich ein bisschen sad. Vorhin haben wir es gesehen, wie es den anderen Ruby Sapphire Spieler in den Arsch gebissen hat.
5 ink from Kristy. Confirms how many cards Chris has in hand left.
I think we'll probably see this Beast Tragic Hero come down here. Yep, this is a, Chris has plenty of answers to deal with this, especially if he's drawing into Brawls or Madame Medusas.
Ist es so? Hat Chris denn jetzt gerade eine Antwort auf der Hand?
Kristy to draw more cards, and so if this Beast can stick
das wissen wir, glaube ich, gar nicht so genau.
That extra card
Wenn dieses Beast mal im Spiel bleiben könnte, wäre es nicht so schlecht.
There's a couple of answers that Chris could possibly have from his turn, but when you're this behind and a game hasn't been going your way, you got to think about ways of how do I win from here? And it's, you know what? If I can get this Beast into play and it sits around, that looks like a dragon to me. But if this Beast were to sit and play, that's the start of a comeback for Kristy. Unfortunately,
ja, das wäre gut gewesen, wenn das Beast mal hätte überleben können.
Sitting around ready to
Hat sie jetzt noch was?
Goes ahead and starts the lure.
Sie hat jetzt noch so We Don't Talk About Bruno auf wahrscheinlich die Maleficent.
Just a little bit to start.
Chris hat noch eine Handkarte. Am Ende ist die andere Handkarte Crab und die wird abgeworfen. Das wäre super devastating.
Alright, we'll do some damage to that Storm Rage on, draw into the card, get rid of that Chicha.
That might have been nice a little bit earlier to maybe take care of that
We Don't
Maui
Talk
that's
About
gotten
Bruno
so much
gerade,
value here.
wenn man die gegnerische Hand leer machen kann. Deswegen finde ich halt eigentlich Emerald Steel mit Discard am nicesten, weil da kann man Prince John drin haben, da kann man Fett 4 wieder Drop drin haben. Da kann man theoretisch sogar noch Donald Duck 4 Drop drin haben. Den finde ich da eigentlich ganz nice. Der macht, dass seine Discarder noch was machen, indem der Gegner auch im eigenen Zug eine Karte zieht. Damals mit Bucky fand ich den noch cooler.
Yeah, that's a Tamatoa. Gets back a Popsicle, plays the Popsicle, draws another card, and this is when this deck is really hard to beat. You're ahead on board, got more Inky than your opponent, and you're drawing 8 and 9 drops. It's just such a hard spot for Kristy to be in. Sudden Chill added to her hand here. A little bit late on that. She could use that.
Kristy ist ziemlich kaputt auf jeden Fall, ja.
Cards that were sitting in Kristy's hand.
Was traurig ist. Ich hätte gerne gesehen, wie dieses Emerald-Stil noch weiterkommt auch. Ruby Sapphire ist, glaube ich, das meistgespielte Deck in diesem Turnier. Obwohl ich nicht gedacht hätte, dass es das beste Deck in diesem Meta ist. Aber
50-50 shot of getting the right one. So here we go. Tamatoa, 50-50 shot of getting rid of it.
Ja, würfel es aus.
Kristy, so it looks like you're
do odd even here.
Yeah, odd even. And
let's go, Kristy.
Yes. So
aber little does she know, Chris hat doppelt Tamatoa auf der Hand.
Yeah, Chris a little crabby to see that go to his discard pile.
Oh, what a pun.
I think Chris is okay.
Yeah.
Looks like, oh boy.
Flavisham, draw 2 cards. Yeah, Chris just being able to find a way to draw extra cards every turn here for the last few turns. And, yeah.
Yeah, Lord for 2 here with a Maleficent, and Chris's deck is just a machine here in this match. Speaking of drawing extra cards, 2 more Chichas getting added.
2 more Chichas representing 2 cards every time the second ink is played each turn. And again, you know, Kristy probably had limited, very narrow lanes back into this game, but one of them was
420 Blazed hatte ich mir anders vorgestellt.
Deck mode, and if he didn't have the answers to draw extra cards, maybe could have clawed our way back into it. But Chris again with the Flavisham at the right time.
Why the people need it.
Allowing him to maintain, you know, his hand.
Well, it was a Clarabelle, a small Clarabelle from Kristy, followed up by Strength of a Raging Fire to take care of one of those Chichas. But it looks like Chris is going to start this turn off by peering into the future, taking a look.
Yeah,
what was in my future? What was coming up?
Was wird es sein? Wird
look
es?
At the next couple cards.
Was wird es denn sein?
The best one for me.
Was ist denn jetzt? Braucht gar nichts mehr. Alles hat er schon unendlich am Laufen.
Liam.
Indeed.
Clarabelle, One Drop
looks like
macht auch nichts mehr.
Ice Block.
Ice Block will reduce the, it looks like reduce the power there of Clarabelle just for fun.
Was heißt just for fun? Vielleicht bringt es ja noch irgendwas.
It might. Although, you know, Maui has to, well, no, yeah, just for fun. Might as well use it.
Nee, es macht, glaube ich, einfach nichts. Aber ja, ich hätte es auch gemacht, es ist nicht so perfekt nachzuweisen, dass es null Effekt gab, bitte. Im Gegensatz zu so Flöte zu erschöpfen, wenn man keinen Song gespielt hat. Das ist
drawing an extra card here, another Visions. Look at the top 5 again. And this is why I like this card so much in this deck. I think Chris has seen almost his entire deck this game.
Might have. And yeah, so I'm just trying to think of a way back in this for Kristy.
I don't know if there is one. You know, it's looking rough.
Well, I'm trying to think through. I mean, the Clarabelle helps. I'm not sure how many cards Chris has. Well, he only has 2 cards in hand. So the Clarabelle would get her a couple extra cards if she gets that shift. We do have the Robin Hood Shaman of Sherwood comes in here. You know, represents a card when it's banished.
Ja, das Spiel ist noch nicht so unendlich out of reach. Chris könnte ruhig mal so ein paar Dazze drawn und nichts mehr haben. Aber ne, noch ein Tamatoa.
Looks like here comes another Tamatoa. This one's gonna get back. See what he gets back. He gets back a Popsicle.
Ja, natürlich. Yep. Das spielt sie doch.
Play the Popsicle, draw a card. I think that was a Madam added to the hand.
Dann.
Yeah, I think a Scar as well, along with this Pegasus.
Wobei man hätte natürlich auch theoretisch so Fishbone-Quail zurücknehmen können, um den auszuspielen, um die Zone so 2 zu inken, um dann noch eine zu ziehen mit der Chicha.
Yeah, lowering up to 11. 11 to 1 on the lower count.
Weiß nicht, ob das besser gewesen wäre. Aber wäre eine Option gewesen. Was hat Chris denn noch auf der Hand? Ich glaube, ach so, ja. Diesen Pegasus auszuspielen war jetzt natürlich auch. Ob das super wert ist.
Challenge.
Ja, da ist einfach nichts mehr los.
Lore check here. Tamatoa, of course, get the extra
nichts mehr los.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 represented. It's not enough for a game this turn unless Chris draws into or has a lucky dime available.
Das ist nicht genug für Game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ja. Die finde ich auch gut. Man hat ja doch relativ viele Songs. Und wenn man dann noch das Deck hätte mit Discard, Ja, mit noch so Ursula. Oh, das sollte ich bauen.
To 3.
Yep.
Chris Andersen at 11. Let's see if he can end the game here this turn.
Keep that drive your lure a little bit, and I think she wouldn't be terribly upset to have it banished and draw into another card. Definitely inviting Maui's challenge here.
Adam added to the hand. I think that's a be prepared in the back.
Da bin ich dann auch fett nicht der Erste,
Star
der
in the
das
middle.
baut, aber ist halt schon ein lustiges
So I
Deck.
think we're going to start with, does Haverson want to get a card first, or you want to activate the Tamatoa for 2 and then get, I don't know, does he have another item? I think he has at least the ice block. We'll say, I don't know if he wants to get the item, so it looks like Madam's going to go ahead and take care of that Robin Hood.
Yeah, no other items, so definitely you could draw with Flavisham into perhaps a Lucky Dime or another item, but
Greatstone Dragon returned here as well, possibly in the future turns drawing some extra cards if we even get that far.
Nein, bis dahin ist
Chris pulling so far ahead this turn. That's for 2, 3, 4, 5, up to I believe 17 or 18 this turn.
Yeah, if it's
18. Und gewinnt.
He goes ahead and uses the popsicle here and passes on over.
Ich fürchte, das Matchup ist einfach nicht so gut für Emerald Steel.
Anything that can get her out of this, I don't know.
Das
okay,
Matchup
he's
mit Discard
go ahead and take care of that Greatstone Dragon.
Ja, bestimmt.
It looks like that's going to be it. And Chris Andersen